哦，今天真的非常开心见到阿南德哦。然后呢，现在就是因为我想站在一个，因为我也是学印度占星的，站在印度占星的视角来跟阿南德做一个关于明年的星象的变化，明年整体的一个运势的分析。那我们都知道，这个阿南德他每年年底之前基本上都会做一些明年度的预测嘛。那我觉得非常的荣幸能够在他的影片曝光之前，先独家的采访到你，我非常的开心。所以今天最主要是想讨论一下2025年台湾的民众最关心的一些议题。那请问阿南德，你对于川普总统当选美国总统，有对于全球的局势，尤其是美中的关系，还有包括台湾，你有什么样的看法？
Yes, so first of all, I would say that this is going to be a turning point in the history of the United States. I had formerly spoken about this a couple of times. Since 2022, I've been saying that the Republican Party would come back to power, and even recently I expressed the same view, that it's most likely, not very sure, but most likely that Donald Trump would come to power once again. So I believe that this was destined to happen. And it will have a positive impact on the world as well in some ways. But the first 2.5 years of his presidency are going to be very difficult. The reason being that the United States is presently going through an influence of Saturn, and hence there will be still some divisions and some problems within the country, and certain other countries which are inimical to the United States or which are presently engaged in conflict might want to test the government's response to those conflicts, and hence they might in fact, try and infiltrate, say, each other's borders, and there might be more border-related issues. This presidency might not be able to stop all the wars that are going on, and might not be able to stop the momentum of conflict, because it is destined that some conflict additionally could happen in the future. But otherwise, I would say that it is definitely much better for the world than, than the Democratic Party if it had come to power, because definitely there would have been some serious consequences for the world, because the world was getting out of control and there was no order when the Democratic Party was in power, as we have recently seen. So definitely, I think this is going to turn a page in the chapter of world history. And in some ways positive, in some ways negative. And the next 2.5 years are going to be difficult for the United States, and similarly for the world also. But in many ways, there'll be a lot of progress, a lot of technological progress. I've been saying that the next 20 years will see some of the best innovation that we've ever seen in human history. And it was proven again, and it will happen, because we see one of the greatest innovators in human history, Elon Musk, who is also automatically in significant seats of power at the moment because of this victory. So what we can expect for the world is more great victories for technological progress, but more instability. Although they're not related to each other, more instability is also possible. So I believe that the world is heading towards a future wherein we're able to create things that we have never ever thought we would be able to do in our entire history. That's going to happen right in front of our eyes in the future. In fact, I've also mentioned 2 years back that space travel will be more accessible to individuals. I predicted this when in 2020 we had the Great Conjunction 4 years back. And now we see that space travel is finally becoming possible as a dream. We're finally beginning to see that it is possible. And now with Elon Musk, who's also gained more power and more confidence in his ventures, I think it's going to be possible. So in many ways it's positive. In a few ways it is negative, and I think it is destined. So we must just accept it and move forward and be hopeful of a new and more positive world.
所以这次川普的胜利也是马斯克的胜利，所以刚刚安南德提到的这个未来的科技，我相信这个对科技绝对是有很大很大的一个变革的力量。但我还想再请问阿南德，就是刚刚有提到关于如果川普当选，一定有正面跟负面的影响，但是如果是针对我们台湾人，还是很担心，因为我昨天的脸书就一堆粉丝跑来问我说，川普当选对我们台湾到底是好还是不好，大家都蛮担心的哦。所以我们想就如果以占星的角度，请那个安南德告诉我们，帮我们分析一下对于台湾的一个经济的影响，还有一个在政治方面的影响，可以请你分析一下吗？
Yes. So to be very specific about this, basically we created horoscopes for Taiwan, and the time when the island, the time when the ROC government moved to the island, the time when it was founded by the father of the ROC, Sun Yat-sen, and a few other important details, including the PRC's chart. So using all of this information, I've come to a conclusion that till August of 2025, it's not good for Taiwan. The first few months of 2025 don't look good. The first half doesn't look good, to be very honest. I've expressed this in an interview as well with the FTV early on. But I would also mention that this is not an ultimatum of any sort. This is more like a analysis. It's a prediction. So it's important not to take it in that sense and be calm and peaceful, because nothing is going to happen like an exterminatory event. Things are going to be absolutely fine. But in August of 2025, we're running through the Rahu Mahadasha and the Mars Antardasha of Taiwan's chart. We're also running through the transits, which are not very good, starting the 29th of March 2025. Multiple planets are huddling together in Pisces, which is a northeastern direction from Ujjain, that's the center point of India. It shows that a northeastern direction in the world, the northeast, is going to be afflicted. So that specifically, according to astrology, would be the Korean region, Philippines and Taiwan, and the South China Sea, the East China Sea. I've been talking about this region, and I've mentioned that in 2025, this will be the new flashpoint. We've seen already one flashpoint in Europe, a war that's going on there. Number 2 in the Middle East, and number 3 here. There's a possibility of another third flashpoint here. But let's hope and pray that Taiwan and any other country in this region is not afflicted by this problem. But I still believe it's possible, and I don't see Trump's presidency as being able to completely prevent any sort of problem like this. Of course, the Democratic Party would not have fared either in being able to prevent such a crisis. I believe that it will be of paramount importance to pray during this time frame between March and August of 2025. Donald Trump is known to be an unpredictable president, and hence the only way for countries to understand his stance on different things is to experiment. So you will start to see many countries trying to experiment with the borders. You will see some of these aggressive countries trying to see how the Trump administration is going to react to some of their activities. So you will see more activity, in fact, not lesser activity. You'll see more aggression and more violence over the next 1 year. So I don't see it as being very good for the overall landscape of Taiwan the first year. But I hope and pray that things get better post 2026 May. The 1 year 2025 to 26 is definitely difficult. And trouble begins between March and August, because that's when the Antardashas are kind of intensifying around that time frame. So I'm quite confident that there would be a problem in the South China Sea in that time frame. It's not very clear if it will be Taiwan, but Taiwan's chart shows that yes, Taiwan might be afflicted, so need to be careful. 2025 to 2026, starting the 29th of March 2025. A lot of care needs to be taken. There's also possibility of natural disasters, which I'll discuss later. But on the economic side as well, we will see I don't see Taiwan getting seriously afflicted, but in the first half of 2025, as I mentioned, there is a possibility of a sudden shock to the economy of Taiwan, or the economy of the world itself is going to experience some sort of a sudden shock. That's kind of clear from the chart. Not sure from which angle this is going to come. I've not yet explored it. I've not yet done deeper research into the economic angles, but I can say for sure that economically, yes, Taiwan and several other highly developed countries will face issues. Developing countries will get an opportunity, whereas the developed countries are going to face some issues with their economy. Either a slowdown or a sudden shock as well is possible. So I've talked about this earlier, the economic and political side, especially of Taiwan. In fact, the whole world, but specifically for Taiwan, since it's the East Asian flashpoint in geopolitics, is going to be difficult.
非常谢谢你这么精辟的分析，真的，所以我因为明年2025年有很多的行星在过境嘛，包括土星啊、木星啊、基督罗侯，所以我大概就是就明年这个行星过境比较细项的，大概再请教你哦，就是2025年您说的3月29日，台湾大概3月30号土星进入双鱼座哦，然后同时有产生一个卡拉萨帕 Yoga。就是你当时在2019年底、2020年那个时候的卡拉萨帕瑜伽，就是造成了新冠病毒的大流行。所以您个人认为，在您的占星的角度认为，2025的卡拉萨帕 Yoga 跟2020年的这个病毒的这个疫情的卡拉萨帕 Yoga 有什么样的不同
？Yes. So first of all, basically, we are not going to see situations similar to 2020. 2020 was an extraordinary year. We have never seen something like that in I would say, years upon years now. So it's about 400 years since we have seen something that powerful, that close for great conjunction with Jupiter and Saturn. There is no great conjunction here. So there is no need to worry of a huge and massive and sudden and dangerous event that takes millions of lives like COVID-19. That is over. That was a landmark event, and it was also predicted using astrology. But 2025 to me doesn't look that terrible. So we can rest. We don't need to be too worried about it much. But yes, there is a Kala Sarpa Yoga, albeit it is not very serious. I wouldn't consider it a serious problem, by the way, considering that Rahu's placement is about 3 degrees in Pisces, and Saturn will also be entering that. And yes, after April and May, there is a possibility of this negative effect starting off. As I mentioned, the northeastern direction of the world need to be really, really careful. Because starting April or May, the Kala Sarpa Yoga's effect will begin to kick in. Saturn and Rahu will have a conjunction, first of all, in April. Rahu is in the 3rd degree. It is also moving towards Saturn. We don't get to see this very regularly when Rahu and Saturn start to come closer and closer to each other. But the moment their distance starts to get lesser than 13 degrees and 20 minutes of celestial distance, we start to see global situations getting into trouble. We also have seen problems in the East Asian part of the world. The last time we had this combination, we had the Vietnam War, and we had so many countless people who died in that war. The United States was also defeated in that war. So even now, we're going to see similar situations to that. We're going to see another conflict in East Asia, and we have to see how the United States handles it this time. But based on the astrological combinations, doesn't look like it will be handled very well. So I believe that the people need to be peaceful in this time frame. It is having several correlations to previous periods. So definitely a lot of prayers need to be chanted throughout this time frame. I don't see it being as dangerous as 2020. It is a different time frame. It has different effects. It can cause huge issues related to so this particular combination can cause issues like diseases. I have mentioned the possibility of a pandemic, but not as big as 2020. It could be more like a flu that came in 1968, and also a war, which also was in full swing in 1968, the Vietnam War. So a combination of a disease and a war is possible, but the disease may go unnoticed until the next year. So by 2026, we might get the news of such a disease. If we get it earlier, it is better, but we might also get it later, which might be a problem. So these are my predictions for 2025 and 2026. But the Kala Sarpa Yoga shows a major change. There is going to be a change in the global order. A lot of poor or developing countries will get an opportunity to grow, and agriculture will start to be valued. There will be humongous innovation, as I already explained. So Kala Sarpa Yoga is good also in several ways. In fact, the previous Kala Sarpa Yoga is what has propelled us towards this intense research into artificial intelligence. We have brought out so many advanced technologies, and so many developing countries have got the opportunity to grow in this because of the previous Kala Sarpa Yoga. So Kala Sarpa Yogas are known for their disruptive force. It's nothing but the planets getting trapped in between the north node and the south node of the moon. So they have a different effect when they're on that side of the zodiac compared to on the other side of the zodiac, where the influence of Rahu and Ketu are minimal. This combination is specifically when the planets are trapped between Ketu and Rahu. When the planets are trapped between Ketu and Rahu, it can create a more serious effect. What we're seeing here specifically is that, yes, the planets are being trapped in this section of the zodiac, which is between Pisces and Virgo. So we need to be careful. There'll also be a rise in diabetes. That is another possibility. More individuals might face diabetes and high blood sugar levels. Children born in this time frame will face issues with the nervous system as well as the feet. Some sort of a chemical warfare is likely next year. Need to be very, very careful. Countries might start using chemical agents against each other. We need to prevent this as a global society because in 1968, Agent Orange was used by the United States against Vietnam. And Agent Orange, even to date, has caused so many people to be crippled and injured. And they just sprayed it over the whole country, which is so anti-human, it's anti-humanity, it's anti-nature. And because of that, so many children have, are still being affected in Vietnam and other places. We should not allow such things to happen again. We should not allow any genocide to happen in any part of the world, and especially make sure that chemical weapons are not used, because chemical weapons have a long effect on humanity. I'm not saying that there'll be a nuclear explosion or a nuclear attack on any country. I'm more worried about a chemical attack or other biochemical weapons or new innovations in that field which might cause more harm and misery to humanity.